Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tracy, and if you don't know me, I have a passion for upcycling clothing. I'm so glad to be back in New York. It's getting a lot warmer out, so I decided to just chop my hair off because it's going to be really nice for summer. So I'm actually quite in love with it. I wanted to share with you guys some more beginner thrift flips. I'll be teaching you guys how to create this summer cutout dress, as well as this trendy keyhole bandeau top that you've probably seen everywhere. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
This is the dress I'm starting with, and it's like a basic halter shift style dress, and I just start by taking the dress and folding it at the center front and center back so my side seams are matched up, and I just double check everything and just pin everything in place so it's perfectly lined up. And I tried my dress on, and then I just have to find where the waist hits. So at the center front, I'm marking about 7 inches, and this varies on different bodies. So just try your dress on and see where your waist hits from the center front, and then just do a chalk mark. At the side seam, I drop about 4.5 inches. You can always make this longer depending on how much coverage you want at the side seam. And then I take my ruler and just kind of straighten out from the center back to the side seam. So just do a straight line. And then you want to just connect the side seam to the center front, and that's going to be like a diagonal. So you can just chalk that right in. I take the rotary cutter and just cut out that top part of the dress. I remove the pins, and that's what the top of the dress looks like opened, and just set that aside. We'll need it later. I'm taking the rest of the dress and just make sure everything's pinned, so pin the hem and the side seams in place, and just grab your ruler and just chalk in a parallel line from the center front to the side seam. So just chalking in a parallel line, and that's how I know it's perfectly even at the waist. So from there I mark down about 2.5 inches, and I just chalk that in. And then I just do a diagonal connecting that side seam mark to that center front mark on the skirt. And for the back of the skirt, I'm just taking my ruler and just drawing a parallel line from the center back towards the side seam, just chalking that right in. And since there's a harsh point at the side seam, you're just going to take your chalk and kind of curve that out so it's not a very harsh point. And I decide to just add more pins around the chalk line just so nothing moves when I cut it out. I take my scissors and cut out this new waistline, and I recommend using a rotary cutter. It's just a lot easier and it's more precise when cutting. I just need to go get a new blade because mine is very dull. I remove the pins and then just open up the skirt, and that's what it looks like. And then I just turn it inside out because I need to take in the side seam so it fits my waist. I recommend trying on the skirt and then saying how much you need to take in at the side seam. So I had to take in about 1 inch, so technically 2 inches from each side because it's folded. So I'm just taking my ruler and just marking in 1 inch from that seam and just chalking in a line and just blending it towards the hem. After chalking in the new side seams, I'm just grabbing pins and just pinning the layers together so nothing moves when I take it to my sewing machine. And after pinning those in place, I'm just taking it to my sewing machine and sewing right along that chalk line, and I'm overlocking my side seams. You don't have to use an overlock machine, you can use your regular home sewing machine, and the straight stitch on a small stitch works just as well, or you can use a zigzag stitch. And next I decide to just use the overlock machine to clean my waistline and the hem on the top, but this is not necessary because stretch fabric does not fray. And after overlocking my ends, you can see it's a nice clean finish. I just take the hem of the top and just fold it under 1/4 inch for the hem, and when I get to that point, I just fold one side first and then fold the other so I get a nice pointed edge. And that is the hem completely pinned on the top, and I just repeat those exact steps to the skirt part of the dress, and then I just take it to the sewing machine and use a 3-step zigzag and just stitch all the way around on both pieces. After stitching the hems into place, you're going to just take the center front on that point and fold it a 1/2 inch once and then fold it a 1/2 inch again. So you're going to get this like 1/2 inch tunnel, and you're just going to pin that into place. Take it to the sewing machine, and you can see on that edge of the fold, I'm just placing the press foot right next to it as close as possible so I can stitch down and create that tunnel. So I'm just using a regular straight stitch for this, and don't forget to back tack. Repeat these exact steps to the top portion of the dress, and I have done that. So you can see I created the 1/2 inch channel on the top. And now we're going to make the 1/4 inch spaghetti that's going to go through both pieces in order to connect them. And for the spaghetti, I'm just taking the bottom of the skirt, that like existing hem, I'm just going to cut that right off because this dress is slightly longer, so you want to make sure it's a slightly longer dress that you don't mind making it super mini, and you're just going to cut that hem right off. Set the skirt aside, we'll hem it later, and just grab that hem that you cut off and just cut it so it's one long strip instead of a circle, and you're going to just cut right next to that sewing line just so you can get rid of all of that stitching. And since we got rid of the stitching, now you can just open that piece and you end up with like a 2-inch strip. So you're going to just like fold that in half, right sides together this time, and you're just going to take it to your overlock machine and sew a 1/4 inch. And you don't have to use an overlock machine, you can just also take it to your straight stitch and sew all the way down. I use a safety pin to just turn this inside out, so it's just like a push and pull. I have like more in-depth tutorials on how to make spaghetti if you need one. And now I just put a safety pin on the other end as well, and now you can just feed it through the top portion of the dress first, and then just make sure it's even. And now for feeding it through the bottom skirt, you're just going to take the right side and feed it through the right side. So they're going to be crossing on the inside of the channel, if that makes sense. So then you take the opposite strap and then feed it on the left side and then just bring it all the way through. So then they're just like crossing on the inside, if that makes sense. For the straps, just knot the ends. I forgot to film it, just knot them. And then for the hem finish on this dress, I chose to do a lettuce hem, but you can also just do a regular hem if you want and just do a zigzag stitch. But I'm doing the lettuce hem on my overlock machine. If you need an in-depth tutorial, I show you how to do it in my serger video, but you can also just do a lettuce hem with your regular sewing machine and do a small zigzag stitch and stretch the fabric as you sew. I thrifted this halter style top, and all I did to it was just crop it. I measured about like 3 inches from the underbust seam and just chalked that in and just cut it out. And I saved the excess fabric for another top. I'll show you how to make that later. And then I just take it to the overlock machine and finish it with a lettuce edge. And I also thrifted this cowl gathered top, and it's pretty long, so I wanted to crop it, and that's what I did. So I just fold it in half and just match up the side seams and then just cut straight across. And I also finished the hem with a lettuce edge. I'm obsessed with lettuce hems right now. And now we can make the keyhole top with the excess fabric of the halter one. So I just start by cutting at the side seam and just opening this piece of fabric up so I can just cut out a rectangle. Make sure your existing hem is at the bottom, and you're just going to straighten out this rectangle. So from the hem, you're going to measure 9.5 inches. That's what works for my bust coverage, but you might need to add more to this. So depending on your bust size, you might need to add a few more inches to the width of the rectangle. For your rectangle length, just take your bust measurement and subtract about 6 to 7 inches, just depending on how much coverage you want, and this will sit perfect so you have like that keyhole for this bandeau top. I end up with a 25-inch by 9.5 rectangle for my size, and you're just going to overlock each end. And I choose to overlock it, but you don't have to because stretch fabric doesn't fray, so it's not necessary. For the raw edge of this rectangle, I'm just doing a lettuce hem for the bottom of the bandeau top, just because I want it to have like some sort of finish, but you don't have to because stretch fabric doesn't fray, so honestly you could just leave it raw and it would be fine. With the excess fabric, I'm just going to start making the spaghetti, so I'm just cutting out two 1.5 inch strips that are 18 inches long, and I'm just going to sew right sides together and then sew right sides together to make a long spaghetti strap. Turn that right side out. And now to do the channel on the bandeau, you're just going to fold the side 1/2 inch on the inside of the fabric like so. So I know it's kind of hard to see on the black fabric, but I'm just folding 1/2 inch, and then I'm just going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm stitching right along that overlock seam so I can create a channel for my spaghetti. Just using a straight stitch, and don't forget to back tack at the top and the bottom of this channel. And all the sewing is complete, so you can see the channel is really nice and clean on the inside of the bandeau top. So now you can just lay it flat down and just have your lettuce hem towards the bottom, and you're just going to take your spaghetti strap and then just in like a U shape, you're going to like feed it through both channels at the top. And I'm just taking a safety pin because that's easiest to feed it through. So I just feed one side first and then I feed the other side, so it's kind of like a U, and you can see it starts scrunching up the center front, so you have that keyhole opening. And we're pretty much done. All I'm doing is just knotting the ends of the spaghetti so it's cleaner.